Welcome to Friday Fantasy Football Forum, otherwise known as FFFF, otherwise known as Quad F, or otherwise known as which is the sound you make after you sit the wrong guys. So, hopefully after your visit here, we'll have a little bit less and a little bit more woo. Now let's go be the best in the land of make-believe. Alright guys, welcome back for our second episode in week 6 of 4F, Friday Fantasy Football Forum. I seem to call it a different name every day, apparently. So in this episode, I want to kind of take suggestions and things that other people said in the first vid and kind of try to add to it so we get something a little bit better going on. And within the first 5 minutes of that video going live last week, 2 people had already suggested I should make weekly picks. So I've already done one take of this, and it took me 10 minutes to give my picks, so I'm not going to do that again. So I'm just going to try and pick them, maybe one quick thing, and get out of there, because that's not exactly what's supposed to go on. So Lions 49ers at home, or the Lions at home, despite of how awesome they're playing, and despite the fact that that is my team, boy, I'm going to pick 49ers in this one. I think the Lions are going to be a little bit high on their horse. I think it might start getting their heads a little bit. 49ers absolutely trucked Tampa Bay when Tampa Bay had a short week because they had a Monday night before. So I just think that the Lions are finally going to slip up a little bit. And hey, if someone were to walk into your room before the season started and say the Lions are going to be 5-1 after 6, that's still absolutely ridiculous. You know, even at some point we just got to think like, hey, even if we lose, we're still in amazing shape that we did not expect to be. So I'm taking 49ers. It hurts, but that's just how it's going to roll. So Cowboys-Pats, I think that's going to be a lot closer than people expect. I would not be surprised if the Cowboys take it due to having that bye week off there. And their defense has been surprisingly good, which ironically was the same defense that the Browns were using last season when they shocked the Patriots by beating them. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out there. Felix Jones is probably going to have a good rushing day. But the Pats are essentially unbeatable at home. They have like 22 consecutive home regular season wins or something dumb like that. So they just seem to be pretty faceless at that point, and it just doesn't matter who it is, they just win. So I'm going to take the Pats, though I think it's going to be really close. Panthers-Falcons, I would absolutely love to take the Panthers. If it was at home for Carolina, I would. But at some point, these 2 and 3 Falcons, who were really good last year, have to actually wake up and play. I guess they have had a tough schedule so far, but at some point they've just got to win games. So I think the Panthers are going to put up a ton of points, but I also think they're going to give up a ton of points. So I'm going to pick the Falcons in a nail-biter. As much as I would rather pick Carolina, I'm just not going to. Colts-Bengals, another one. There seems to be a lot of really iffy, really close games this week, at least for me. I think the Colts probably should have won last week. Painter was playing great in the first half, and they blitzed up to a big lead and then blew it. So I kind of think they can do more of the same, but the Bengals have been a surprisingly decent team as well. They are at home. I'm going to pick the Bengals. It's just so hard to pick the Colts to win a game, though I do think this is going to be their best shot for the next 4 weeks or something ridiculous like that. Rams-Packers, that's not any question. Rams are so totally going to take that one away. I'm just kidding, the Packers. That's a piece of cake. Nothing to say there. Bills-Giants, I think the Bills are going to go with there. Finally, I'm picking a freaking road team. Oh, no, I had San Francisco. Okay, so finally I have a road team here that I think is going to win. I'm going Buffalo over New York. Steelers-Jags, despite throwing the fact of how well the Steelers offense played last week, throwing that out the window, I still think Steelers were a better team and have been playing better than the Jags. So, I mean, we're talking Blaine Gabbert versus Palomalu and the defense. I don't think that's going to happen. So, go Pittsburgh there. Eagles-Redskins, I'm going to take the Eagles, kind of on a similar thing that the Falcons need. They just need to start winning. Eagles got to go 10-1 if they want to have, expect to make the playoffs. Unless they just go 5-1 or 6-0 in the division, and they kind of pull a Seattle Seahawks type thing to escape out that way. But I don't think it was a fluke how well Michael Vick destroyed the Redskins last year, despite the fact that both teams are obviously vastly different. I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles this one last time. So, hey, wow, it actually looks like the line is for the Eagles. I don't know if these are the Vegas lines or what, but I don't pick by lines. I'm not a betting man, but not with my luck, you kidding? So I'm not paying attention to that. Let's see, Green Bay, New York. Aha, so I'm going against the line there. Going against the line here. I probably will go against that, but whatever. Where are we now? Browns, Raiders. God, that one's a literal 50-50 to me. I'm going to take Raiders simply because they've got McFadden and they're at home. aside from that, like, I really have no idea. So that's not really much of a pick. I don't know enough about it, I suppose. But plus, Cleveland Browns, Ohio. I'm a Detroit guy. Get the hell out of there. Only one town is supposed to suck so much. Give that title to us. Texans, Ravens. That should be a pretty easy pick. Ravens. Johnson's out. Schaub is hurt. Ravens off a bye. Ravens at home. Should be fairly simple. I do think the Texans are a good team, though they're about to fall 3-3 and lose all that preseason hype that they had. Saints, Bucks. Not too much to say here. I'm going Saints. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and the Bucks are a little bit overrated. So, Vikings, Bears. I'm taking the Vikings. That's right. I think Cutler, despite how amazing he played last week against Detroit, I think he was pretty lucky that their offense had 0 turnovers. He didn't throw a pick somewhere. There wasn't a fumble somewhere. We only got 3 sacks on him, despite the fact that he was only able to stand up like twice all game. So I just think AP can definitely run at least as well as Best ran, and I think the defense should be able to put the Bears through a pretty similar, not as good, but a similar level of stress that we just did on Monday. So I'm going to take the Vikings on that one. So I have a couple of decent picks, but otherwise I'm pretty much just going down the standard line. Monday I'm going Jets over Dolphins. Should be pretty simple. Brandon Marshall expects to quit. They just lost their quarterback, so whatever. That's all we got through there. God, it took me 6 minutes. All right, so I shaved off 30% of that garbage, but anyway, so there's our picks. Hopefully I can remember to include like waiver wires and like love-hate type stuff going on. But here we go. Back to the meat and potatoes of this series. So I had a pretty good week. I went 3-1. It absolutely should have been 4-0. I'll get to that in a second. So TPX, my important league, I eked out a win there. I didn't expect to win this one, but both of our teams had a bad week. He got 73. I got 100. So I wasn't in too good of a situation there. But I actually got a lot more questions this time for my teams than I had last time. So we'll see from there. Flacco or Ben Roethlisberger. I'm going to go Ben because he had a really good week and he's versus Jags instead of Flacco. But I could definitely see how they'd be up in the air. So depending on what your guys' opinion on that is. And I think I'm going to have this question every week. McCoy, Forte, Fred Jackson, Arian Foster. Foster's versus Baltimore. I do think he's going to have a good day, so I would absolutely start him on your league. For that matter, I'm pretty sure 99.8% of people in the world are going to start Foster. I'm the 1% who's not, or the 0.02% who's not, whatever the hell I just said. But I do think he's going to have a good day despite being at Baltimore. But considering the other 3 matchups I have, I just feel like those are just going to be a little bit better. So that's where I'm going. I finally get my receiver back, Miles Austin. I finally get him back, so he's going to start. Considering how New England's pass defense has been and how much their big receivers of other teams have been torching them, he should be really good. Santana Moss is coming back. In fact, all my wide receivers are back now. Week 5, they were all gone, so I'm going to have my wideouts for the rest of the season. Despite Brandon Marshall, he's still their only option. Matt Moore isn't a terrible quarterback, but he's certainly just going to be a filler for the rest of my season. I think I'm going to have to start Moss, despite the fact that he doesn't put up big numbers. So I suppose we'll see from there. I picked up Crabtree simply because I had Cobb as an extra spot on my line for that 1 week, which of course he got 4 points. At the time, Ben throws 5 touchdowns. Like, seriously? How many touchdowns has he thrown all season? 1, 2, 3. He's thrown 3 touchdowns in the season, and he'd been playing like garbage. And I have him in 2 leagues for 8 total games up to that point. I started him 7 times, and then I decided to sit him and he throws 5. Like, what the hell? So that was just terrible. He puts up 27, Cobb gets 4. So I figured if I'm going to drop Cobb, I may as well pick up some, a hot guy who people think he's on an upstart. So Crabtree could be pretty decent. I'm not sure if I would start him against Detroit, but I just picked him mostly so somebody else couldn't. But as far as it's really just, there's not too many questions on this team. I'm actually going to move Hernandez over to Finley here. St. Louis has been, I think, the best against tight end. Second best against fantasy tight ends this year. And Green Bay, I think one of the reasons Finley has been so bad is just that, whoa, what the hell's going on? Oh, crap, I got to sign in. The reasons Finley hasn't been so good is just because Brett Favre has been doing so amazing. Lol, just kidding. Aaron Rodgers has been doing so well with getting balls to the receivers, he hasn't had to go to the tight end. So Meanwhile, Dallas, I think, is really going to take away Wes Welker a lot, so that should mean more for the 2 tight ends. Taking a look at my preview to see where we are, I also don't think it's going to matter too much. He's only got one advantage on me, and that's over Cam Newton. Otherwise, I'm winning everywhere else. I've tried to switch these 2 guys in the order that they're standing, because if you switch them, then the projections will change. Granted, these are obviously just projections, so they're all bogus anyway. But then this check mark would go over to my side, and it would just look really funny. But I think I'm going to have a really good week in TPX over Makar. And, again, I'm not too worried if I lose a little bit starting Hernandez over Finley. I should be okay there. Lions defense, I hate you, but I got no other choice really. There's nothing better I can pick up at this point. If I want to take a gander at what it is I can pick up, let's see here. What are my options? If I didn't want to start Lions, I could start Texans. I could start Redskins, but not against Philly. I suppose that'd be decent. Giants, not against Buffalo. So it's like there's a couple of decent defenses out here, but just not in the matchup that they have this week. So there's nothing really available for me on that one. Who else is on the waiver that's worth it? Manningham is on the TPX waiver. He hasn't been very good, and Cruz has been awesome now. So I wouldn't personally want to trust him to start him, but who knows? Grossman's on the waiver, but I think everyone in this league has 2 really good quarterbacks, so I just don't want to pick any of them up. But otherwise in TPX, we're really good at picking up all the good players, so there's not a whole lot out here to grab. You can see the top waiver picks are all freaking kickers and tight ends, so that's just a bad sign. So that just shows you that everything out here has been jacked. Anyway, so that's team number 1. We're gonna skip team 2 for a second and go down to team 3. Another team that I grabbed a win in, 129 to 79. So I totally crushed this guy. I think 129 is actually the highest score of this league to date. For some reason, this league has just been scoring really, really low. So that puts me 4-1 in this league as well. 98th percentile, so I'm doing really well. And let's take a look at what I've got. This is my other league with Ben. I do also have Eli down here as my backup. But he's versus Buffalo, and Buffalo gets a lot of picks. Granted, that was 4 from Brady and 4 from Vic, so I don't think that's going to exactly... I don't think that's necessarily accurate of how well their secondary's been playing, but I also just don't like Eli. Like, a lot of people don't like playing fantasy because they don't want to start guys on teams that they hate. I'm a Lions fan first and foremost, but I'm also a bit of a Patriots fan, so F Eli, I don't want to start him. It hurt when I had to start him last week, but he still did well despite the fact of benching Ben. I started Eli the last 2 weeks, but anyway, so as far as my running backs go, AP, you're going to start him 100% of the time. Felix Jones, I think he's going to have a good day against New England. Flex, I'll get there in a second. Hakeem Nicks has been pissing me off. He's been doing well, but not like lighting stuff up. He had 2 weeks in here that were really bad, and 2 weeks that were just 12 points is okay if you can't get 20 points every week. So sometimes you're going to have it. But he's only really had 1 good week, and that was against Arizona, which makes obvious sense. Of course he would. So, granted, against this Seattle team, I got lucky that counted as a touchdown, but when you win by 50 points, it doesn't really matter. So, I'm not really fond of Hakeem Nicks at this point. If you can try and trade him for something that has been really good, if you can get like a really good running back for it, like Fred Jackson, or if you can get like a Wes Welker somehow, I think people are still valuing him high because he was expected to be a top 5 before the season started. He just hasn't been doing really well. In the same boat that Larry Fitzgerald, he was also expected to be a top 5 before the season started, and he's been really worthless. He's had 1 good game at 19, and everything else has been a disappointment. And he's really hurt me in a couple of leagues. I'm actually really glad in TPX that everyone wanted to pass up on Foster, and I was able to take Foster in the 2nd round, because if he wasn't there, I would have picked Fitzgerald, and my team would be a lot worse. So that's just my little hate on those guys. But considering I do have Matthews and Fitzgerald in a bye, I'm kind of in a little bit of a bind on who I want to start for my 2nd wide receiver. Colston is the Saints' number 1, but they're in the same boat as Green Bay in the fact that there's 4 receivers on that team, that any one of them can catch a ton of balls and have a great day. So it's just, I don't know if I want to start Santana Moss or Marcus Colston in that one. It feels really tough. Plaxico Burress, I wouldn't normally want to start him unless I had like a lot of receivers missing. But it's versus Miami, so it seems really tempting. But I just hate the Jets, so I don't really want to give him that benefit of the doubt. But it's going to be tough. I'm not quite sure where I want to go on that one, so that might need a little bit of help. Hernandez versus Davis. I didn't have Hernandez on this team last week. I think I actually saw him on the bench, so I think I picked him up, dropping a third. I think I had 3 QBs just because I wanted to prevent other people from picking him up. Anyway, so I'm not sure. I don't think Vernon Davis, he's been doing great the last 2 weeks, but prior to that, well, I guess 3 weeks he's been doing well. So he's on a really good trend, and it is against Detroit, and I'm still not really that high on our defense. I think that, if our line is going to do as well as it did against Chicago and get to Alex Smith, he's going to need to use Davis. So I think he could have a pretty solid game. What is he projected, actually? He's projected only 4 points, though. Despite the fact that it says the Lions have been vulnerable to tight ends. Oh, that's why. Because they're missing a couple of their big wide receivers. But I don't know. I still think he'll do pretty well. Despite the fact that I think Hernandez is going to do well too. I don't know. That's certainly one of my 2 questions. Bengals versus Ravens. Houston, despite missing a couple of pieces, having some stuff injured, they still do have a very good offense. And the Ravens aren't known for getting a lot of sacks. They're known for getting their points and turnovers. And with Andre Johnson being hurt and having Foster existing again, I think they're going to feed him a lot, and he's not going to turn it over. So the Bengals, while are playing the Colts, which I think is just a really good matchup. So while the fact that I picked the Bengals up last week just as a bye filler for the Ravens, since they had their week off, I think I'm actually going to keep him for another week. And then Neil Rackers, you always start him. He's one of the best kickers in the league. So there are a few questions here. Like, I think I could literally start any of these 5 dudes on my bench in place of what I have up here, especially Sproles up here at flex. It's just, there's just so many weapons on that team. The only reason I've been playing him is because he's lately been doing really well. He's got double digits up in there. So, I don't know. It could absolutely be Moss. It could be Burris. It could be... actually, I guess Moss or Burris instead of there. But could pick Colston over to there if I wanted to swap, and put in another guy over here. So, I don't know. There's a few options there, but that's how I'm going to roll with it. Let's take a look at this preview for a second. And it's actually going to be a really tough week. This guy is also 4-1. He's the first in the West. I'm first in the East. So, as you can see, like, as far as projections go, it looks like he's going to have a little bit of an advantage, but it's going to be really close. Roddy White, Miles Austin, Santonio Holmes, Jimmy Graham, Redskins. So, I don't know. It should be pretty close. As far as how well the teams have been doing, he's been, up and down, and he hasn't really been better than 110. He's only passed it once, and his team seems to have the tendency to not do that well, whereas you just look at mine, and it's just been getting better and better and better, up to averaging, well, not averaging, but it's getting up there around the 120 to 130 average. So it's going to be a tough week, so I'm definitely going to need to micromanage my points, and it's not going to be one of the cases where, well, I got all these great starters, and if I get wrong on this pick, who cares? Because I'm going to be in such a good advantage, and this week I don't think so. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be really close. But taking a look at how these guys are performing, I've got 566 in this league so far through 5 weeks, so that's obviously really sweet. And then everyone else, essentially, on my Eastern bracket has scored over 500. Then you look at the West, and these teams just kind of stink. First place with under 500 in 5 weeks, so he's averaging like 96 points a game, 98 points a game, but he's freaking first overall. It's like, what the hell? Then we got 460, 440, 410, 360. Like, what the hell? So I'm just always in the really tough divisions. Go figure. So like these two guys are they're neck and neck. They're both at, oh well, he did just lose. Oh, that's right. But this guy at 4-1 is the guy who beat me at my 4-1. So it's a tough league. I'm in a bad spot, and of course I happen to be fighting the only good team on their roster. So it's just really tough in that regard. And then we're going to go to my other league, which is in the 99.9th percentile on ESPN. This team's just absolutely going nuts. I had a really scary week last week, though. Despite the fact that I'm averaging 130, I barely eked out over 100 last week. and going into Monday night, it was still questionable if I would even win at all. So I definitely had a bad week, and he had a bad week as well. I was expecting over 100 points from him, so I'm surprised, ironically, that I ended up pulling that week out, despite the fact of how good this team is. But that's just how it worked out. So as far as who I need to start, I don't think there's too many question marks here. This one's got the opposite of TPX. It's got Gronk and Finley instead of Hernandez and Finley. And I'm just going to go with Gronk on this one. Defenses, I'm going with the Vikings defense just because of how well Detroit played against Chicago, and I think they're going to get a couple of turnovers in there. I do like the Redskins defense, but they're not against Philly. So Romo versus Cam Newton, I'm going to have that issue for the entire season, I think. And so far I'm going to lean a little bit towards Cam Newton just for the moment. He's been playing a little bit better so far, so I'm going to keep it that way. LaShawn McCoy, Matt Forte, I'm fortunate to have them on 2 leagues, so obviously they're going to be starting. Kelvin Johnson, Wes Welker, the top 2 wide receivers so far in the season, obviously they're going to be starting. Hansen, you don't have multiple kickers, so of course he's going to be starting. But the flex, there's a little bit of options I got here. I could go Holmes, I could go Percy Harvin, though I don't think he's going to do very well. I could go Crabtree, though I don't think he's going to do really well. So I'm going to go with Sean Green. He had a good week versus New England, which was kind of expected. So it's like him and Holmes, I think, would be the one I would want to fill in. But they're both Jets guys. They're both versus Miami, obviously. So it's kind of, they should both do pretty much the same type of thing. Why is it on schedule instead of projections? As much as I hate the projections, I do like seeing the numbers here. So there we go. Where else were we on this one? Take a gander at the match that I do have over here in my 5-0 league for the win. I'm fighting a dude who hasn't won a game yet. Looking at their average points, they had a really good week last week, ironically, scoring over or just at 100, 110. But aside from that, they're averaging like 90 points. Maybe a little bit over 80. Yeah, a little bit over 80, but not a whole lot. Whereas I've been in the 130 range, just barely under this 140 line the whole time. So I shouldn't really have a problem crushing this dude. Although, ironically, his team actually doesn't look that bad. Sanchez sucks, but Frank Gore's been doing well. Steven Jackson, he's decent. AJ Green's been doing really well, despite the fact it doesn't sound like he should be good. Macklin's probably going to have a big game against the Redskins. I don't like Brandon Marshall this week simply because he said he physically expects that he's going to get kicked out before halftime. He has a new quarterback, so despite the fact that he's their only option, and I did think he was good earlier in the season when he had a monster week 1 and 2, and I got those picks right. I don't know. Good kicker, decent defense, so I'm surprised it's only projected 3 points. That doesn't make much sense. So it might be a little bit closer than I'm expecting it to turn out to be, but I do think, just looking at these projections and these points, I shouldn't really have much of a problem. I tried to find something where I had 15 points and I sub it in, so I have a whole slew of it, but I don't. So I should be pretty good in that league, but I think it's actually going to be kind of close, kind of tough. A lot of my games were actually really close, so I didn't make all the right decisions, such as sitting Ben Roethlisberger and starting Cobb, who is the freaking worst. Like, go figure. I sit the best and I start the worst. A couple of my decisions ended up being really crucial and saving me those few points that I do need. Here we're looking at our team. This Team Hill guy, as I said last week, he hasn't clicked back on the league since he drafted. And the guys in the East really aren't scoring that well. If you want to look at 100 points a week, we've gone through 5 weeks and they're all doing kind of bad. But at the same time, at least the West in this league doesn't look too stacked either. This guy down here is 490. Looks like he's second in the league. Yeah, he's second in the league, and he's the guy I just played this last week and got him. So, but then you look at my 631, it just doesn't really fit in there. So, I'm doing pretty well here. For once, I seem to have, not a division that isn't kicking, some massive tail all over the place. And then we get to league number 4, or league number 2, I suppose. And this league pisses me the hell off. I'm 2-3 in here. I just lost 94 to 93. Going into that game, on the last drive that the Lions had, I was winning by 3 points, and Stafford decided that he's going to hand the ball off for the last 11 plays of that drive, instead of, at least one quick slant. somewhere to Calvin Johnson, when you had 3rd and 5 within the red zone, instead of, trying to give it to CJ, that's the running back, I call it, trying to give it to Megatron for a score, or at least a few passing yards. If you had 6 more passing yards, I would have had 1 more point, and I would have tied the game, but no, he wanted to hand it off. Settle for a field goal, give yourself an 8-point lead, to which you let the Bears march all the way on down here with my Lions defense, let them march in 1,000,000 yards on the last drive, give them a chance to score a touchdown, to give them a chance to get the 2-point conversion. Unbelievable. I was up by 2 points. I had 96 going into that last drive. They run the ball the whole time. I get no offensive points. They let the Bears go all the way down on the Lions, and I lost 3 points on my freaking defense on the last yards of prevent defense at the end of the game. Just 3 yards that they didn't need to get. The refs called back multiple sacks with flags. I can't believe we didn't force a single turnover. Just absolutely unbelievable how I lost that game on worthless yardage at the end of the game because they played too conservative. Oh my god, it pisses me off so freaking much. And this is the one league where I really need to start pulling these games out in order to, make the playoffs in it. I've just been getting hacked left and right. Like, I should be 4-1 in this league, and I'm not. So I'm just really pissed. Really, really pissed about it. For you guys who watched one of my earlier chess, I think it was on Monday night. Yeah, I think Monday night I posted a chess vid where I was just, pissed off, and I stated I was pissed off. Yeah, because I played that game right after this league, after that game turned off. So I've had all week to be pissed about it, and I'm tired of being pissed about it, but I'm still freaking pissed about it. So, whatever. There we go there. I'm going to start Stafford. I'm going to start Ray Rice. Glad he's back. I'm going to start Frank Gore. He should have a great day. Miles Austin, Steve Smith. There's not really any question marks there. Antonio Gates has a bye. He's also been worthless. If you can find a way to trade Gates for somebody who's been doing really well, do it. If you can get a New England tight end for it, if you can get obviously any of the top, I don't know where he's stated point-wise, or how well the other, let's see, how do I find what players have been doing really well? I know I got there at some point. I'll have to see if I can find that. But if you can get a top, I don't know about 5 to 10, but if you can get a top 5 pick or a New England tight end for him, I probably would try to do so. Because he's been literally worthless. What are his points? Yeah, he's got 7 points all season long. 7 all freaking season long. See, there's 4% of the ESPN leagues that don't even own him anymore. People have just flat out dropped him. So if you can trade him for a worthwhile tight end, that might be worth it. Leaving me, I'm still starting Greg Olsen. Though there is a question mark I think I have on the waiver wire of, do I want to start Olsen or somebody else? I'm going to go with Lions defense because there's not really anybody else to go with. I don't think San Francisco's offense is that great, so it should be a similar type of case of, get at least 1 turnover, get a couple of sacks in there, and then just preventing yards and preventing points. You should be pretty much guaranteed 5 points with, upside to go 10 plus. So Matt Bryant, I hate this dude. He got 2 freaking points last week in a game where I lose by 1. He gets 2. I'm tired of having him. I'm so sick of him. He's not doing very well. I thought he would be good, and he's just not. So I need to replace him with something. And it's just a matter of there's a few options I can replace him with. So I could replace him with, let's see, who's left? I kind of left this not picking somebody up. I had good pickups that I just ignored. I think Dan Bailey's going to be a good pickup. Who else is up on here? I thought there was... John Casey, the New Orleans guy. I think he's going to be really good. Ryan Lindell, I think he could have... I'm talking over the course of the season, not just necessarily this game. Longwell and Gould have been doing really well, but I wouldn't want to take either one of them. So there's all of those guys who have been doing really well. I thought Mason Crosby was still here. Someone must have taken Crosby, because I believe he was actually hanging out for free in the league. But so yeah, I don't know if I want to pick up Casey or Bailey, or maybe even Lindell, but I definitely can jack one of those guys in place of stupid dude. Which, ironically, despite the fact that he's playing Carolina, he might have a really good week this week. I hate him. I hate him. I absolutely hate him now. So I don't know who I'm going to pick up, so I'm going to want some feedback on that one. I think Bailey is probably going to be the best over the course of time, but I mean, I suppose maybe the New Orleans guy as well. He's been doing really well overall, so it's one of those two guys. So let me know what you guys think on that one. Did somebody really take freaking Mason Crosby? Maybe it was a different league where somebody had him. I don't know. So if I can, I'm going to try and pause this and see if I can find where players are ranked for a second here. Okay, there we go. I found it. I just clicked on players, clicked on scoring leaders, and then one of the guys, or a lot of the guys, suggested I should go through names of dudes that I. Well, why is this off the freaking mark? How am I supposed to move this over now? I can't move this over now. What the hell? All right, so I guess there's not. Why is this like backwards? Okay, well, something's going wrong with this freaking scoring leaderboard. I had no problems with it earlier, but it only seems to be showing a bunch of players that. What am I doing wrong? Week 6. I want the. Oh, there we go. 2011 season. Okay. Guess who's retarded? Now I figured it out. Let's go back to some running backs, see if I can figure this thing out here. Nope, it still doesn't have. It's going from the bottom to the top. I want it to go from the top down. What is going on? How do I fix this? There we go. Alright, so looking at the top running backs so far. Jackson, McCoy, Forte. Holy crap. Guess who's got 3 of those on one league? And then, yeah, obviously Foster's down here somewhere. So, let's see, some of these guys have a bye. I don't really like Best that much, so if you can trade him for somebody who's above him, I think that'd be really good. Along with Beanie Wells, he's been very surprising. I don't know, I guess like this is a sort of thing where it'd be better for like personal questions, like, you know, what about this guy, what about that guy type of deal, as opposed to just going through, you know, these huge lists for every player. Let's look at wide receivers for a second, see if those guys are still the same top 2. Yeah, Wes Welker, Calvin Johnson are still top 2. So instead of just saying like, oh, I hate this guy, or oh, this guy's really good, you should try and trade him away, I mean, that's more of a individual basis type of deal, I think. So I don't know if I can really fit that in. Plus, I've already gone over a half hour. Jesus Christ, I do not know how to shut up. I love how Gronk has 60 points overall, putting him second tight end. In the last 2 games, he's combined for 4 points. So he's really done this on, you know, 3 weeks. Even Hernandez, he's only played a couple of games, and he's been out since, and he's still essentially just about there in the top 10. So I just think that's really funny. Olsen's been doing. Oh, I never went to check that other tight end on the waiver for my. Bloody hell. Well, now my teams are gone. I'm not going back for it. Screw it. I'll just have to figure anything else out on my own. So let me know what your any of you guys have questions on, you know, your own waiver wires, what you need to think, or if, you know, there's somebody you're not sure if you should trade or not, if you got potential things going on with that. Just, you know, let's get some more questions going on. There was a lot of great feedback last time. Obviously, I had great success this past week going 3-1, and it should have been 4-0. So I'm really glad that it happened the week after I posted a vid, so it shows, hey, I actually can do fairly well. I'm not entirely clueless on what the hell's going on here. So I just think it helps a lot. I didn't make all the correct decisions, no, but I made barely enough where the fact that, you know, I lost by 1 point in one league, so it's just like sometimes all it really matters is having 1 point of the difference in there. So I guess that's going to do it for week 6 of 4F, and you know, let's keep it going. We had a pretty good week, so hopefully you guys had a lot of success as well, and good luck to you this weekend. Go Lions!